Okay, go ahead and get us started here. Want to be mindful of time for everybody, especially for our speaker tonight, who is in Europe. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Just as a reminder, if this is your first time coming to a Product Management Nights event, we are the New York City chapter of Product Management Festival. But this is a global organization that has meetups around the world and also hosts, when we're able to do in person, international conferences. And it was there's just hundreds of events around the world, so it's a really great organization. And what we're dedicated to is just the global support and development of product managers in all industries, and we really strive to amplify the impact of product management in general. um, we have a goal of helping all product managers or those aspiring to be product managers to be successful and influential at the same time, while adding real value in whatever organization you're in. So tonight's speaker is Juraj. He is the VP of Product at Slido, and normally located in New York, but is currently in Bratislava, Slovakia, which is also where the Slido headquarters are at. If you're unfamiliar with Slido, they're a startup that is dedicated to creating more engagement during your events and meetings digitally. And I believe we might be getting kind of behind the curtains tonight during the presentation. And we're going to learn more about creating customer-centric product innovations. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to you.
Thanks, Susan. And hi, everyone. Excited to be spending the next few minutes with you all. Although Susan kind of hinted it's past midnight here where I am, but nevertheless, it should be fun. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and we can get started. All right, so I'm gonna spend the next 20, 30 minutes, we'll see how it goes, going through some content, and I definitely wanna get you involved. So I actually have a first question for you just to get you into Slido so we can try it out. It kind of wouldn't be a talk by someone from Slido without using Slido. Goes with that. So you can join either by opening a separate tab in your browser and going to slido.com and put in the code PMF-NYC, or you can scan the QR code on the screen with your phone and it'll open the page. I'm going to give you a few seconds to do that. And there's just really an icebreaker there. I'm kind of curious to see where everyone's joining from. I told Blaine and Susan that I realized that maybe majority of you are joining from New York, since this is the New York chapter, but we'll see. Maybe we have a more global audience now that it's all accessible online. So we have Brooklyn. I normally live in Brooklyn. Normally, I don't know what this means, but let's see. New York. Cool, we have 3 people. Brooklyn, Nigeria, awesome. There you go. Manhattan. So majority from New York. That's what we expected. Queens, nice. Brooklyn, Nigeria. That's awesome. Cool. Well, definitely cool to see that we are a diverse group here. Excited to, as I said, to be spending the next few minutes with you all here, and hopefully we can get more engagement. Definitely please post your questions either through the Zoom chat, or you can do that on Slido if you switch to the Q&A tab in your browser or on your phone. And I think we can get started. As Susan said, my name is Juraj, kind of weird name from Slovakia, but you can pronounce it if you think of your eye. I'm the head of product at Slido. Just really briefly, if you don't know Slido, we're a Q&A and polling platform. Got started in 2012. So 8 years ago, we're now 150 people, kind of distributed pretty much all over the place in 13 countries. We have people in the US, we have people in APAC, Bali, and in Australia, and we have, of course, a big team in Europe, since, as Susan said, we're headquartered in Slovakia and Europe. We're still bootstrapped, which is kind of a fun journey after 8 years, and we're definitely we're excited and grateful to be powering, helping now more than 1 million events and meetings that are using Slido to bring that interaction. And we're hiring, which I thought might be a cool thing to mention, hiring product managers and other roles as well. So I'll include my contact details at the end if you're interested in exploring some opportunities. That's just briefly about Slido. And just to, on top of that, what our vision really is from getting started is to help people get the most out of joining meetings, events, and how we do that is by enabling the two-way dialogue between the presenter and the audience. So you'll see a few more interaction polls throughout, interaction points throughout the talk here today, because I don't really just want to be speaking at you from my Zoom here, and hopefully we can get more engagement going. Now, what I'm going to share with you today is how we put our users at the core of product innovation and how we build product at Slido, and why one part of that was ditching our product roadmap in this process. And that doesn't mean that I'm against roadmaps, but we'll cover what that meant for us. This is more like a case study of really a few years back and what we've been through and what we've learned over those past few years, some of the main lessons, and we can then kind of dive into specific questions that you might have that you're experiencing in your organization, and I'll be happy to help if I can. Now, so the question that we asked at the beginning of this a few years ago is that how do we build great products that make our users successful? That was kind of at the core of it. And we when we looked at it, we truly believe that the best products are built at the intersection of engineering and customer success. That's kind of where the magic happens. But it's not reality, and it wasn't the reality at Slido. There's a gap which was causing a lot of miscommunication, lack of understanding between engineering and product and customer success, and really just in general misalignment between the two functions in the organization. So just so I give you context into kind of the before, the Slido customer success function before was focused on improving retention. That was kind of one of their #1 metrics. They tried to move the needle by doing everything. So they're focusing on onboarding, on research, data, internal processes, Gainset, which is a tool that we onboarded back in the day, user education, etc. So really kind of broad scope. And with focusing on all of these things, they kind of knew that to make a real impact, they needed to change things on the product side. But that's not really where they had the opportunity to move things. So that was customer success. On the product side, what it looked like before, we were working with quarterly roadmaps, product roadmaps, which kind of led into building features instead of solving real, true customer problems. Also led to missed deadlines, and most of the time we needed to rework work features after delivery. And all in all, really, this just led to anemic and kind of missing adoption of new features that we were releasing and launching. And Slido is a organization or company at that stage. Engineering was just executing that given quarterly roadmap, and success felt that they're not heard, that their voice doesn't really matter. So that's really going back to that gap that I mentioned before. So really, when we looked at how these quarterly roadmaps are being used and worked with, a few weeks in after we presented those, no one really believed that what's on the roadmap is actually true, and that's the most important thing that we could be working on. So we knew we had to change something, and we wanted to figure out how we can start bridging the gap between engineering and product and customer success on the other side. So when we looked at what the sources of customer insight are for us, there are 3 things. One is we get a lot of insights from NPS comments. So when you use Slido for a meeting or for an event or webinar, presentation, whatever that is, after your event, you'll get an email with a simple question. They'll ask you to rate your experience, which will give us an NPS, and you'll be able to also give us a comment based on the rating. So that's one source of comments and feedback that we get daily. Secondly, it's live chat and support tickets. We have a pretty big focus on our customer care organization, and customer support is a big priority. So we get a lot of feedback and even feature requests and comments on chat and from our customer care tickets. And last but not least, just calls, regular calls with customers, whether it's sales calls, anything really goes onto this category. So those are the three sources of customer insight back in the day that we had. What we introduced as one of the first things at that point was our customer experience team, or CX team. Their sort of mission or their goal was connecting engineering and customer success, as we discussed before what the problem was. And they did this one way by collecting, categorizing all the customer insights from those three sources that I mentioned, bring these into some sort of a manageable format to the product team that they could actually work with. And last but not least, they're also digging deeper into what might be hiding behind some of the causes and feedback, and providing those to product teams as well. The actual tangible outcome of what the CX team, even to date, works, and you can see this is actually the most recent report, is they work on the customer experience reports that are delivered to the whole company, but specifically to the product management org. We are still kind of continuing on iterating and playing with what the right frequency is. This latest one was actually a quarterly report. So you can see this is the report for Q3 2020. One kind of more recent lesson that I can share on this one is that we're trying to kind of now match it to what the discovery phase of the different product teams and PMs is, and when that happens, and match it with when the CX report is delivered. Because oftentimes it happened that the CX report was delivered a few weeks after the product teams have decided what they're going to be working on, and that wasn't exactly insightful and helpful for them. So this is one tangible outcome from the CX team, and this is where sort of all the insights from those three sources that I mentioned come together, from the NPS comments, from the customer care support tickets, and from all those calls where we get feedback as well. Now, the first aha moment there was that when we looked at those first reports and first insights from our CX team was that, oh shit, we aren't actually solving our customers' biggest problems. We're working on a lot of things, but they're not the most impactful thing, the most significant problems that our customers are facing when they use our product day to day. So we realized with that, and there was some decision process, of course, but the end state was that we need to kill our product roadmap, or maybe better say, rethink how we use roadmaps. So what I'm going to walk you through now is kind of these 5 steps on how we did it, how we went from a quarterly product roadmap that no one really believed in a few days after we presented to the company to really kind of more autonomous product teams that work on real problems faced by our customers. So let's tackle the no product roadmap step first. The main shift there was that instead of kind of the executive team or product board meeting up and figuring out what the roadmap should be, so some sort of a top-down process, we shifted towards bottom-up experiments that were actually driven by the product teams and the PMs themselves. Now, there was kind of a lot of iterations as we went through that, and there's great reading that you can find in the Inspired book, for example, which I'm going to reference later as well, on how you can run these experiments. And we had experiment scorecards and other ways of tracking this. Today, we actually have this all in Notion, which we implemented a few months ago. And we have our overview of active projects done by each team, but it's really driven by each team and each PM, which I'm gonna talk about in a bit as well. So there's no more quarterly roadmap that's decided by executives or some sort of a board. This is all coming from the PMs themselves. Now, speaking of the kind of giving the autonomy to PMs, this was a major point for us to really shift how our product teams think and work as autonomous teams. The way we build and structure our teams today, and this might be familiar to how we structure them at your organization as well, or maybe you can get some inspiration from that, is that each team has a product manager, designer, 2 to 3 engineers. This kind of varies. There are today some teams that have more engineers, but we really don't want to kind of make it bigger than 5 per team, let's say, because then it just kind of becomes too big. We have a QA specialist dedicated to the team, and we have a user researcher. And I'll talk about the user researcher role in a bit as well. But this was kind of the big differentiated that we sort of didn't do before, and then made a lot of difference. So with kind of putting together the product teams in this way, we really realized that, you know, one thing is that you have a self-sufficient team. They don't need to go to a group of designers to get a design done. Really, it's the product manager and designer who can be working, and the user researcher who can be working on some sort of discovery phase of a project. And then a different stream is the engineers and QA working on delivery and releases. So this is how we structure them today. Now, I wanted to pause here for a quick poll, because I'm actually interested to see if you think how you structure product and the product org in your organization is the concept of autonomous teams. So really kind of giving the freedom and flexibility to your team, something that you use or work with in your organization, or not, or maybe you're not sure. Maybe it's kind of in the works, or you're thinking about it. Cool. I'm seeing that most of you are not using that concept, which is good. So that kind of means that maybe I can share something new, and then you can kind of see if that could help you. So far, there's 0 yes, which is interesting. I didn't expect that, but thank you for sending these votes here. If you want to learn more about the concept of building autonomous teams, this is the book that I mentioned before, inspired by Marty Kagan. We honestly based a lot of the points about how we build our product org at Slido over the past few years, based on these insights in the book and in the writing that he publishes on this blog. But the concept of autonomous teams was one of the strongest ones, and really led to even coaching the PMs to become autonomous, and really to help them drive what they are working on, what they're building, and what the roadmap for their team looks like. So now one thing about autonomous team is how we structure and build a team. The other equally important part is to give each team a clear metric. So one thing is that you have a team, and you don't really have to go elsewhere to work on projects, but you also know what is the number one thing that you need to be moving. And if you're deciding on whether to work on this project or not, you can kind of link it to the key metric. For us, it's really the kind of the Uber metric is the number of events. An event for us means any sort of meeting or presentation that you use Slido for. So each team should be really asking, will this feature drive the number of events or not? And of course, there's a lot of proxy metrics and other metrics there too, but this is kind of the North Star for them. So the third point is about clear product strategy. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, because I think it could be a topic on its own, but I'm going to share one model that we learned from Gibson Biddle, who's a former VP of product at Netflix, and I actually think he spoke at Product Management Festival before, so you can find his talk online somewhere, I believe. He talks about and also writes about this on his Medium blog, is a GLE model. And for us, this looked as follows. So the G really stands for get big, L for lead, and E for expand. And it really kind of gives you a structure how to think about your strategy and how you're kind of almost waterfalling through the next step. So for us, when we started working on Slido, the main kind of initial strategy was to get big on conference Q&A. So really rethink how Q&A looks like at big events and conferences. So instead of, you sitting an audience of 500,000 people and maybe being shy and not really wanting to stand up and raise your hand to ask a question, we wanted to rethink how they could be done with our product. What followed that was leading through all hands meetings. So you can think about all hands or a town hall meeting in a company, like an internal conference. It's still a big meeting. A lot of people attended. You also get a visibility for the product, and we wanted to rethink how those meetings are done in terms of, again, still Q&A, but also providing feedback and interaction to those meetings. And then where we're kind of now in the area is expanding in terms of growing and kind of growing into the next chapter, which for us is remote meetings and presentations. So really kind of helping each individual who's presenting and wants to make their presentation more engaging. We want to help there with Slido. So this is just one kind of way of thinking the product strategy and formulating it. There's a ton of other ways. That's why I don't want to spend too much time on this, but really the point is that giving the context of what the product strategy is to the teams was very important for them, not just to be autonomous and kind of thing what is important. That context was essential there, but also in terms of scaling, how the whole operation is about bridging the gap between engineering and success worked out. Now, the fourth kind of area or issue was identifying these top problems of our customers. So the customer insights, the feedback and the insights that we get are really the true lifeblood of customer-centric product development. And it took us a while to really learn that and learn how to organize these insights. But I'm going to share a few things. And here we're going back to the user research team that I mentioned before, and when I was talking about the structure of the product teams. Now, the user research team is something that we kind of put together at this point in time. It's now probably almost 2 years ago, and really their number one activity was having regular user research calls with our customers. Those were joined by engineers, by product folks, by designers. It was really kind of open forum for everyone, but it was essential that these people actually join instead of just the user researcher. We didn't want to create some sort of a shared service out of it where you outsource your research to a different team and then you get your insights. It was a huge transition when we introduced this team, and the team kind of made sure that our product managers are truly listening to our customers. The last point there was how can we get the customer success team on board? I talked before about how they felt disconnected and how they felt that to really make impact, they'll need to change things on the product side, but they really don't have the means of doing that. So this was a big area. Now, one tactical thing that we did there were these dedicated Slack channels. To this day, we have these 4 Slack channels: customer insights, customer pains, product ideas, and customer love. I mean, customer love is really just kind of for sharing some nice uplifting comments and love and feedback. But the insights, pains, and ideas are actually workflows that we built and automated in a way. So when you come to a Slack and when you come to, for example, customer insights channel, you can just kind of initiate this workflow with /insight. And I mean, you can imagine a salesperson or a customer success manager who comes into this channel after they've had a call with their account where they learned something about how they're using the product, what they might be missing, and they submit this insight to Slack. This is then reviewed by the product teams and product managers. It's also organized by the CX team and kind of put into a database of all the insights that can be accessed later on. But this was a very easy way for people from success, sales, marketing, other functions to come in and share those insights when they're interacting with the customers, and for those insights to be accessible by our product team as well. The other thing, also quite tactical, that we did to bridge that gap between customer success and product are these demo days. And I updated this since because for the past 2 or 3 months, we've been experimenting with asynchronous demo days. So before that, it kind of happened once a month. We got all the company together, kind of a hybrid in person in our offices and Zoom. And we had each product manager and each product team present what they've been working on for the past one and what they launched, and really also share the why. Like, why is it important that we are working on this feature? Why will our customers, why do they need it? What are the jobs to be done, etc. For the past 2 months, as I said, we tried these synchronously. So I asked each product manager to record a short video on Loom where they kind of do a live demo or walk through a use case or a feature that they built and worked on. We then put it all into one Notion page that we use internally. And then next to each video, we also include a sort of embed of Slido event where people can post their questions, but you can even do this without Slido and kind of have a form there for people to submit questions. We then kind of write it out all together in one kind of referenceable Notion page with all these videos, share it on Slack, and give some time for the company to kind of go through these videos, and then we hold a Q&A and answer those questions. Now, one thing that I'm really enjoying about doing this synchronously, and other people are as well, is that it's, as I mentioned, it's easily referenceable throughout. Like, you can come back to those videos, but also just simply being a distributed team, you can watch these videos at any time that works for you, which kind of works for different teams and functions who need to consume this information. So that's the other tactical thing that we've done there. Now, as for the key takeaways, so really just wrapping up some of the key points from earlier. As I said, the best products, as we look at it, are built at the intersection of engineering and customer success. And we looked at how we can bridge those things. We looked at how customer insights are really the lifeblood of your work when you're talking about customer-centric product development. We also learned along the way that really to keep the insights flowing, if we want to encourage the customer success managers to keep posting those insights and ideas from customers, they also obviously need to see that it has impact, and we are actually working with those. So demonstrating the impact by, them bringing the PMs back and showing during the demo days that, hey, we've implemented this feature or this feedback or this customer pain into product and it's now solved, and kind of continuing the loop was critical as well. That's it for the part where I do the talking, but I would love to open for any questions or comments. Since this is not a webinar, you can even unmute yourself and we can chat. But you have my email address here as well. So if you have any questions or would prefer to email me, or if you have any comments, I'd love to hear from you and connect as well.
Yeah, and just I see one from Rachel. Will the slides be shared afterwards? Yeah, we upload everything, and also this presentation will be available on our YouTube. And as a reminder, you can go to Slido and post your question there, or in the chat, or however else you want to ask their question. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Juraj.
Cool. I mean, we can take this one question from Slido here, which is, how did you get buy-in from the leadership team to adjust to this new structure? I mean, this answer is not going to be perhaps as helpful because it wasn't that difficult. I think everyone was pretty much on board from the leadership team, realizing that really to move our product and to work on things like product adoption and retention, we need to bring the customer success and product teams close together. And this goes through all the things like even cross-functional collaboration between product and other teams in the company. But the leadership team had that buy-in from day one, so it was kind of supportive to figure out how we can bring those two teams together. If you have any specific questions on perhaps why you don't think that could work in your organization, please send that as well, and I can try and address that too. There's one more question on Slido. Curious how long the transition from roadmap to autonomous product teams took. It's a good question. It took us about a year, really. So it wasn't super fast, but I mean, we saw some improvements a few months in. I mean, as soon as we dropped the roadmaps, the whole team kind of just started chilling, and they kind of were more relaxed around not committing to a roadmap that no one believed in. But really, a year in, we saw the true impact of the product teams deciding on what they're working, what is the most significant thing that they could be building, and the company trusting that process as well. Here's the next question. Were there any initial objections or concerns raised by the company leadership? Again, pretty boring answer, which I'm sorry about, but not really. I think the leadership saw that gap between how product and engineering operated and how customer success operated, and they saw the frustration from both sides. The customer success managers and that team was getting frustrated because they're hearing about all the pains and feedback and product requests, feature requests. Yet the engineering team was kind of locked with their head on a roadmap that was created by some sort of a product board that no one really trusted. So I think it was a pretty obvious problem that people wanted to solve. Did you notice a shift in the company culture or attitude after these changes? Yes. And this one's quite interesting because and this is more of a recent shift that we've noticed and that we are kind of still currently working with. I myself struggle still a bit with the concept of autonomous teams, because autonomy doesn't mean that you're entitled to do anything that you would think of. It still needs to be within the context of the company's strategy and direction and metrics that are set, OKRs, whatever you have in place. And we are actually learning that that setup of having your PMs and product team work as autonomous teams could lead to a culture of, or like more of an attitude of like, hey, I'm a PM, I decide what to do, and that's not definitely where we want to be. So that's something I would say to keep an eye on if you're going this direction. You mentioned there are a lot of missed deadlines with the old roadmap. Are there expectations for timelines now? And if so, how do you handle? Great question. So we shifted the way how we look at deadlines once we ditched the roadmaps as well. And we actually looked at the concept of shaping that the founders of Basecamp even wrote a book about, which I highly recommend. And this is really talking about the concept of deadlines and the concept of scope versus how much time you have for work. So before we decide to work on a project or a feature, we ask the PMs and the engineering lead to say what is their appetite. And the appetite is something that can be 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. It depends, but it's really kind of the PMs and the tech lead deciding that, hey, I have appetite about 4 weeks to figure out and work on this project, and the scope of the project will come as secondary. And this helped us a lot in terms of not missing deadlines, but also not kind of coming up with arbitrary deadlines that are really just made up, and they are, and if you're in software and tech, you're not in consulting where deadlines are actually imposed by external party or customer that you actually have to deliver. So I definitely recommend checking out the shaping shape up book by Basecamp on this. What surprised you the most from moving to the autonomous teams? Thank you for this question. This will be I talked about that shift in culture, which could lead to a bit of a negative where the teams are kind of entitled, almost from autonomous to entitled to, hey, I'm going to be working on this and I don't care. And that was a surprising moment, but it was still manageable to work with the PMs and coach them, as for what really autonomous teams means, and how important the context of the strategy and OKRs is there. But that was a surprising lesson for me. Question from Miranda: can you remind me who compiles the customer experience report, and do PMs typically pull from here or Slack? So thanks, Miranda. So is the customer experience team. They're about 5 people currently. So it's not a huge team, and they are the team who pulls this report together. They kind of pull it from all the sources I mentioned: NPS comments, customer care tickets, etc. And then the PM. So we once the report is published, we always go through the report together with the lead of the CX team during our product management meeting. We kind of look at all those insights together, discuss them, debate them, just to make sure that there's kind of a discussion as well, and not just kind of read individually by the PMs. And yes, the PMs pull from the report. That's still something that we are tweaking, because as I mentioned, it may not have the impact that we wanted to have if the report is delivered a week after the team already decided what they're working on and set their own roadmap or projects. So we want to kind of align it with the time where they're actually doing the discovery work. And with Slack, that's kind of a continuous flow of these insights. So the PMs check those customer insights, customer pains, channels regularly, and pull from those as well. Susan, are there any questions on Zoom chat?
No, the ones that we had, I made sure ended up in the Slido.
Oh, cool.
But wanted to give everybody just a moment. If you have any other questions. Cool. So otherwise, Juraj just said we'll have this information if you need to email afterwards and ask them. I mean, that's everything we have for tonight. Again, unless of course anybody else has anything they're dying to ask right now. All right. Well then, thank you so much, especially for calling in at past midnight your time. I hope you're able to go to bed and get some rest soon. As a reminder to everybody, we try to have an event on the 15th of every month. So you'll see, make sure you are subscribed to the meetup group so you can get updates on our next speakers coming up. And if you're ever interested in speaking, feel free to leave a comment in the meetup group, or I don't know if our contact information is available, but we're always looking for speakers. So if you're really interested in honing those public speaking skills or sharing some awesome insights that you have from your product management work, please, we want to involve you.
Yeah, for sure. We'd love to have you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well then, again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. It was really interesting. I know I'm going to try to push more for autonomous teams, and I love the idea of not having a real roadmap. So I'll be sharing this presentation with my leadership, that's for sure. As always, thank you again. Product Manager Festival wouldn't be anything without all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week/month and day as well. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Thank you.